Yo, what's good people? Today we're going to be talking about Raven. So in version 1.05, Raven received some nice buffs. So I'm going to, first of all, before I actually explain how we're going to use the buffs, I'm going to do a move comparison. So I actually recorded what these moves look like in version 1.04. And I'm going to do a kind of comparison section before we jump into, the new changes and how you would use the changes. So before, it's going to be kind of a comparison and you can visually see what's changed, and then I'm gonna jump back in and describe how we would use those changes. Do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe. Liking will help with the algorithm, commenting will also help with the algorithm, and subscribing will let me know that you enjoy the content. Let's get into it.
It's not over yet. It's not over yet.
Okay, so hopefully you have a better understanding of how the moves differ visually and by frames. And now we're actually going to jump into match, and I'm going to try and explain the patch and the changes and how it actually affects us in reality, because some of the changes don't look that crazy, but actually some of the changes are ridiculous. So I'm going to just pull up the patch notes. Hitbox of the Rage Art attack has been improved, so less likely to whiff. That's that change. Now heat smash. So when in heat, 2+3. So what they've done with this move is that sometimes when you would activate this move, it would evade opponents' attacks. Now they've kind of reduced the evasion of the move, but they've made it more consistent. So sometimes if the opponent, depending on axis, right? So if I'm like on this axis and I'm tip range, sometimes the clones would just whiff, or the third hit of the clone would whiff and stuff like that. So they fixed that and it's more consistent on block. So that's what they've changed about heat smash. Not anything too drastic, but sometimes, the heat smash can whiff, and also sometimes the heat smash can evade opponents' attacks. So they've kind of mitigated those issues with, hitbox and hurtbox fixes. Now let's look at cartwheel. I showed the cartwheel as having airborne status now. So it works the same as Tekken 7, where this actually has airborne and an airborne state, which means it has kind of low crush frames. So you can kind of jump over low attacks now, which, to be honest, I don't know why they reverted that change, because in Tekken 7, this already had that property. So now, it can crush crouch jabs, it can crush lows and stuff like that. But, it's not really a drastic change. But in those instances where this should have gone over lows, now that will be the case. So this now goes over lows. Now with 4 piano 3, so this move, I can't really notice a difference other than the third hit kind of launches them slightly higher. It's not really that drastic, to be honest. I would still opt for down back 2 as the follow-up. You can get forward 4, which I don't think was possible in the last patch. I think it was very, very tight if it was possible. So now you can do forward 4 more reliably. It's not a combo. So yeah, in reality, it doesn't really change anything for us. I guess it kind of stabilizes the move a little bit more, I suppose. But honestly, in reality, the change, unless I'm missing something, isn't really going to change much in combos, and in, like if you use this move for whiff punishment, it's not really going to change much. So Power Crush is still a high mid. So this actually got nerfed from the beta, which it was mid before, and they made it high mid. So it still doesn't really change much. It only changes some interactions where, some attacks could high evade the first hit. So in reality, it doesn't really change much for us. The second hit is still not considered a Power Crush state, which I think they do need to adjust, because there's instances where, for example, the first hit would kind of absorb a move, and then if it's a string, for example, it would lose, or it would trade and we would lose the interaction. Even though we made the right read, we would lose. So what I think they can do is to make the second hit still a Power Crush in Power Crush state, and they can make the first hit a mid. Because there's been instances where like I've Power Crushed, but they've done like a high evasion move or a high crush move, and the first hit is completely whiffed, and they've punished me for doing, the Power Crush, even though I made the right read, if that makes sense. So I think they need to make this mid again, and also make the second hit a Power Crush, because right now only the first hit is a Power Crush. Back turn 2. So apparently they kind of increased the hitbox of this move. Now I do notice a difference in combos, but I don't notice a difference in crushing, in opponent crushing, and I'll show you an example of that. So stuff like this is more consistent now. 4-4-3, 4-4-3. This used to drop all the time, but this is still a suboptimal route. So this doesn't really change much for us in the combo department either, to be honest. But it's nice that they kind of increased the hitbox of the move, I suppose. And, moves that was crushing it before, that shouldn't be crushing it, maybe they fixed that. But again, let me show you an instance where this just doesn't matter. This buff doesn't matter. Claudio's down back 1+2 could still crush this move after, this on block. Okay, so here we have Claudio. Now I'm going to set Claudio to do down back 1+2 after a block or hit. Okay. So this was an annoying move that Claudios do like to use, especially in heat, as a panic move. So now what we're going to set up is a block sequence. Still gets crushed. Still gets crushed. So it doesn't crush here, which is weird because this is actually more safe on block. This is -4 on block, right? So surely frame-wise, this shouldn't be working. But this gets crushed. So I don't understand why this gets crushed. It's really strange. So yeah, I mean, the crushing in reality to me doesn't look any different. I mean, this is still crushing like it was pre-patch. So unless there's really obscure instances, I don't think this is really going to change much. But it's nice that they, you know, increase the hitbox of this move anyway. Full crouch low can now be done from stand, which is kind of insane. This change is kind of ridiculous, I'm not gonna lie. Now, Raven actually had to be in crouch for a certain amount of frames, which made it very annoying. So if I wanted to do the instant one, I would have to do like a weird input like this. So down, down, back, down, down, back, down, down, forward. And that's kind of instant full crouch moves. So for example, if I wanted to do instant full crouch sweep, you know, I'm pressing 3+4, but the sweep's not coming out, right? Because I need to be in crouch for a specific amount of time or a specific amount of frames. Now, to do the instant version, I do the same input. Down, down, back, down, down, forward. So, see what I mean? So it's near instant. Now, this was the case pre-patch for the full crouch low. Now we don't have to do that input. We don't have to do down, down, back, down, down, forward 3. We could just do down, down, forward 3, which is excellent. The trade-off for this, so it still retains the same, you know, counter hit properties and stuff like that. So I'm going to turn punish off and counter hit on. Still retains the same properties, of course. So I was saying how the catch is now that it leaves you closer on hit and block. So it's kind of a double-edged sword because it leaves you closer on hit, which is nice for continuing pressure. Because before, if you did this, they could just backdash pretty much all options if it was spaced like at tip range, for example. Now, yes, options are still going to whiff at tip range, but way less likely. So if I do this, back turn forward 4 is not going to whiff anymore. And this is another move that was buff up. We're going to get onto that in a little bit. So it allows me to pressure the opponent a lot more and stay in their face. Whereas before, they could just backdash every option after this move, which was very annoying, actually. So now we can do it from stand. And we are left closer on hit, which obviously allows us to, you know, stay in their face for more pressure. The reason why I said it's a double-edged sword is because now if they block it, so I'm going to put block all. So previously we could space this to be safe. I mean, it's safe, but if they punish us and we try and turn back around, for example, this is -14 now if we turn back around and try and block stuff. So that's actually a -14 interaction. Now, you could actually hold down back and bait a punish and launch with while standing 1. You can't do that anymore. So you can't do any of these shenanigans, you know. I mean, it depends on what punish they try and do, but stuff like while standing 4, yeah, you can't evade while standing 4s anymore with this interaction. So you're gonna have to go for parry most of the time. And then when they start clocking onto parry and trying to launch it or waiting for parry, that's when you turn back around. So the mind games are still the same, but just be wary that you can't really do that down back stuff anymore because, you know, we're left closer on block and hit. So that's why it's a double-edged sword. But this move is severely buffed. I mean, this is like one of the best buffs in the patch, to be honest. Like, doing this from stand is just outrageous. Kind of insane. Yeah. Look at this. You couldn't do that before. You couldn't do that before? Wow. Yeah. This is insane. You couldn't do that. You had to do the crouch step to do that. But okay. So this is a QCF cancel, right? Now, I had to crouch step to gain access to that move. Now I don't have to. Oh my God. Yeah. This is insane. This is insane. Because I literally just got back from work. I'm literally in my work shirt. I only had like 30 minutes before I left for work to test some changes. And I didn't test this wave dash, crouch dash, you know, QCF cancel. This is kind of OD. I'm not going to lie. This is kind of OD. So if you have the execution to do, you know, this QCF up cancel, you're going to have a lot of fun with this move. So that's full crouch down forward 3 being able to be done from stand. Massive buff. Okay, next move is back turn forward 3. Raven already had a counter hit property on this move, and it was forward 2, which did 40 damage. So keep that in mind. It did 40 damage before. So now I'm going to go over the changes. This is +6 on hit from +3. So way more plus frames, which makes it a more viable mid. Doesn't get crushed as easily, has a better hitbox. So I know Lily, for example, could crush this move after 4-1 on hit with Matterhorn. She can't do that anymore. You will have seen that in the visual representation in the kind of comparison at the start of the video. But I did actually record Lily Matterhorn before the patch and after the patch. Now, after the patch, she can't crush this move with Matterhorn anymore after 4-1 on hit. Bearing in mind, this move is +7 on hit, right? And it could still be crushed. Now, that's not the case. I have seen Yoshimitsu crushing it with Hopney still in the patch. So that might be something that, you know, is a Yoshimitsu issue. I'm not really sure if that's his hurt box or anything like that. But overall, this move is going to be crushed way less, has a better hitbox and more plus frames. Now, you can actually transition back into back turn by holding back after the move, which is +3. Previously, this was 0, so you wasn't actually plus after doing this. So that's huge buff. Huge buff. Counter hit. Let's talk about counter hit properties. I'm going to actually turn counter on. So this is +14 on counter hit now. So obviously down forward 1-4. It does more damage than pre-patch. It does 6 more points of damage. So this is a buff. Even though people's like, oh, it's not a big buff. It is, because it's a 6 damage buff. And if you think about it, at the wall, they're going to get wall splat now. And the combo is easier to convert from down forward 1-4 than forward 2. If you wall splat people with forward 2, it's difficult to convert because this has so much recovery. So having this wall splat as well is kind of insane at the wall. Now, of course, you can do 4-1 if you want to do a back turn mix. You can do down back 2-1 soul zone mix if you want to. For example, like this. So he can do a lot of stuff at, you know, +14. You can also do this as well if you want to be +6 in back turn. Now the combo, if you turn back around, obviously now is going to be +11 because this is +3 going back into back turn. Now obviously on counter hit, going to be +11 and this is +14. So if you do this, the combo is back turn 3-4 because back turn 1-4 will whiff unless at the wall. So at the wall, that would actually hit for a wall splat. But that doesn't hit in mid-screen. You can do 2-1, but sometimes it does whiff depending on axis. So I would just stick to back turn 3-4 because it's the most consistent, right? At +1. So then 1-2-4, you can fish for counter hits. So yeah, overall buff, big buff. So this into back turn being +3 is insane because now the next move I'm going to move on to is back turn forward 4, which received another buff. Or a buff because it didn't get buffed before. But this is a move in the patch that received a buff as well. And it's pretty significant. So let's move on to back turn forward 4. Because I feel like Raven didn't really have a low that wasn't unsafe or launch on block. Because before the patch, this low wasn't really worth doing. It did 9 damage. It didn't really have that great plus frames and stuff. And it doesn't high crush for +2 and it pushed back on hit. So it just wasn't great. So you kind of had to commit to back turn forward 4-1, right? And obviously this is launch on block if they duck the high. So of course it's like Raven's lows from back turn weren't really great. Obviously back turn down 4 doesn't function as, you know, as Tekken 7. It's way worse. But now I'm going to show you why back turn forward 4 is worth doing by itself. So let's look at the patch notes and see what it says. So they changed the damage from 9 to 13. Huge buff, because if you think about it, 13 plus 13, that's a 26 damage interaction for doing 2 safe lows. That's kind of insane. So yeah, 13 damage is very good for this poke low. Another buff is that it was buffed from +2 on hit to +4 on hit. So now you can imagine this is now a frame trap, which was not a frame trap before. So yeah, this is insane. So opponents can't match after this now. It's very insane. And so you can condition people not to mash with this, and then that opens you up for this mix. This mix is going to be very, very good now, I think. And also from this as well, you can open people up very, very easily now in back turn, which I felt like was a problem because it's like this low wasn't threatening enough for people to duck. Now it's a threat. So people have to duck now in back turn, which I felt like was very difficult to get people to do unless you kept going for this. Now, going for this is launch on block. One block, one correct guess, and I'm launched, I'm dead. He take us to the wall, guess the game, I'm dead. So, yeah, huge buff, damage buff, frame buff on hit, and interestingly, it leaves you closer on hit now, which is a huge buff as well. So overall, this move has just been buffed beyond belief. Now, yes, if you're still wondering, this move is still safe on block. So what we're going to do now is we're going to punish, crouch punish, while standing 4. Now block all. So you can still parry just like full crouch low. The reason why I said this move is very good is because of now if they mash, even if they mash a jab, they're going to get counter hit like this. So that's why I said they can't mash now. This wasn't possible before. You could just jab me out of it. So the fact that they buff this is insane. Now, let's look at the back turn trade, which is very, very interesting. Let me show you. So if they jab in this situation now, what's going to happen is because I'm +3 here in this situation, and then I do a 13 frame mid, I'm going to trade with a 10 frame jab. Look what happens on the trade. It's kind of insane. So I'm going to do fast high attack, which is a jab, right? Claudio's jab is 10 frames. So this is the situation. +17. So look now. Forward 4-3 is a launcher. You can also do this. Down forward 2-3. But forward 4-3 has more damage potential. So we're going to go with that. Can be quite tricky to do. Look at the damage potential. Look at the damage potential. This is insane. So, and you can also fish for back turn G-Clef as well. This wasn't possible before. I want to see them buff while running 3, to be honest. I think it's a terrible move. I would like to see some buffs on this. And back turn down 4. I want to see next, in the next patch, I want to see a buff on back turn down 4. Because you've completely stripped the identity of the back turn character away. You've stripped away his back turn Undertaker throw. You stripped away back turn down 4, which he previously had in all the older games. In Tekken 7, Master Raven had the same. In Tekken Tag 2, Raven had a throw mix between Generic 1 and Generic 2. So he did have a throw mix. And in Tekken 6 and in Tekken 5, functioned the same as a throw mix. Every character that had a throw mix from back turn kept their throw mix, other than Raven. Why would you take Ravens away, who is supposed to be the back turn character? Why would you take only Ravens away? I don't understand. So if the developers are watching it and the balance team are watching this video, consider giving him back Undertaker throw. I would even take Undertaker throw doing 35 damage, so even less in the back turn version. So keep this as 40 from neutral, but then make the back turn version do 35 like his generic throw does. Why wouldn't you do that? That's a compromise. So we still don't get access to the full Undertaker damage, but at least we get access to the back turn throw mix that we always had in previous iterations of the game. Now, back turn down 4, again, this Raven's back turn down 4 is essential because it provides a high crush low threat. He doesn't have a high crush threat anymore. The high crush threat is this. This is terrible. Like, why would you make all generic back turn lows like this? This doesn't make sense. Raven is the only character that doesn't have a high crushing safer low threat. Lily has one, Feng has one. I think Azucena has one as well. The back turn character does not have a a high crushing low that's safer than launch or block, which is kind of insane. But these changes are a good start, I think. Very, very good start. So let's move on to the next change before I start ranting on back turn downfall. Okay, they've changed this to be able to block in any orientation. So what I mean by that is if he was off axis before, so for example, if I stepped just a little bit before Raven did down back 2 and he manually cancelled back, he would get hit. So let me describe that a little bit more because that can be very difficult to understand just by that explanation. So, right. This move is -4 on block. Back turn cancel like this takes 5 frames. So I'm -9 here. Let me show you. So he won't be able to punish me with the jab. So punish. See how he's going to jab now? I can block it. But the issue is if that Claudio player sidestepped to the left or right just a little bit before I did down back 2, I wouldn't be able to block the jab, which was very, very problematic. I've lost so many sets because of this bug. Like, and this was not a thing in Tekken 7, which is insane. So they did address this bug, which I'm really, really thankful for. And it wasn't just after down back 2, it was after every single move that transitions him into back turn. So like this, for example, if the opponent did a launcher, so I'm gonna set Claudio to do a launcher, for example, and I could actually be launched for doing this, which doesn't make sense because that interaction is -14, right? So we're gonna do crouching punishment while standing 2, which is Claudio's launcher. As you can see, I can't be launched for this. It's not launch punishable. But if I turn back around and I was off axis, I would actually be launched, which is just insane. And it costed me a lot of sets. So the fact that they changed this is I'm really, really grateful for them addressing this because we was dealing with this since, I mean, the beta, to be honest. A very long time. Great changes. I mean, I was just playing around with, you know, Raven's changes and stuff. But yeah, I mean, great changes so far. I still think back turn down 4 should receive a buff. I still think, as you can see, I got launched for blocking because it's launch on block. Insane. Like, why is this launch on block? Doesn't make any sense. So I think they could buff that. They could potentially look into giving him a back turn throw mix purely based on the fact that every character that had one previously, Huang, Feng, you know, Ling, characters like that, they still have theirs. Why did they take Raven's away? Doesn't make any sense. So potentially look into that. Potentially look into giving him down forward 3+4 from older games, sidestep 3 from older games, forward neutral 4 from older games. Why don't they look into giving him those moves, you know? But I think these changes are quite good. I'm not complaining, you know? Anything to help us with our bottom tier character was, you know, greatly appreciated. And I think also what they could do is look into QCF1 and giving him a hit confirm window. You guys already saw my kind of proposed changes. I would give this a hit confirm window. I would allow Raven to crouch dash out of soul zone. I would allow Raven to do, you know, from crouch dash after 2-4 can't be cancelled. Why can't I cancel it? I want to cancel it with sidestep. Allow me to cancel it with sidestep. Allow me to choose whether I go into soul zone from back 1. Why am I forced? I don't want to be forced into stuff. I feel like soul zone is very stiff mobility wise, even though yes, they gave him, you know, white hole and stuff out of it. I still just think it's very stiff. And same with, you know, stuff that forces him into stance is very stiff. Imagine if we could crouch dash out of this. That would be insane. But anyway, those are my thoughts on Raven version 1.05 changes. Let me know what you think about Raven's changes in the comments. Mainly this change. I think this change is going to be very, very annoying for a lot of players to deal with, especially if they couldn't deal with it before. And also, I personally think this manual cancel change is the biggest buff we've received in the patch. Despite receiving this caused more issues for us as Raven players, and you know, as poke heavy Raven players, you know, this bug was very, very annoying. And we also kept our homing down for 1, which is nice. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about Raven changes. That's all. Peace.